What kind of dog lives in a toilet? Poodle. Welcome to Shave&Butcher. I made a video over 4 years ago called What Would I Buy Today If I Started Straight Razor Shaving? And I thought I'd make another one because it's been over 4 years. A lot of the things I will say are actually the same as what I said over 4 years ago, but it's been a journey. I started shaving with a straight razor, I don't know, 7-8 years ago, and this was a few years into the hobby. Now I have a little bit more experience, and what I say today is what I think. You know, it's not right, but it probably isn't all wrong either. So if you're interested in straight razor shaving, here's my advice. If you're not wet shaving today, you will need to pick up a few things, which is part of the traditional way of shaving. You will need a shaving brush and a shaving soap of sorts. A lot of different brushes around. They do the same thing. What you choose is purely up to your preference. There are badger hair brushes like this nice one. There are boar brushes. Well, they come from pigs rather than boars, most of them. Also a natural hairbrush. This one is quite pretty. It's got a copper handle. And less frequent, but also very nice, is a horsehair brush. So those are natural hair brushes, and that's all good. You can also use, wherever I put it, over here, in my brush collection, is a synthetic hair brush. They do the same thing. What you choose is up to you. You can go cheap and cheerful. You can spend a lot of money on badger brushes that tend to be a bit more expensive. It's all up to you. They do the same things. If you want to collect them, it's nice to have different kinds, and they have fancy handles. Some are very expensive, but as I said, you can go cheap and cheerful. Just get a good one, because that adds to the fun. You also need a soap or a cream. You can go with an artisan soap. This is from Greece, Grooming Cult, fancy label and everything. Those are very nice. Different designs, different soap bases that do different things, and they put more crazy stuff in them for every year that passes. That's nice, and you can collect these as well, or just know that they go bad after a few years. I used to have 150 soaps. How dumb is that? Or you can just go with a shave cream. This is from Portugal. You can pick one up at your supermarket. They're different and different quality in them, but they do the same thing. They lubricate the face so that your razor slides effortlessly through the whiskers. You can also not get a dog, and that will keep your videos more quiet. Or you can pick up a shave stick. This is Spanish from Lea. You can get them cheap in the supermarket as well. As I said, up to you, but you need a brush and you need a soap or a cream to get a lather on your face. Then you need a razor. Lots to choose from here as well. Here's one. Does it matter what straight razor you have? Absolutely, it does. But as long as it's of decent quality and sharp enough, you don't have to spend a whole lot of money. But you can, and you can collect these, and I do, and I spent quite a bit of money on them. Don't tell my wife. They have different sizes. So we talk about the width from spine to edge. This is about 5/8 of an inch. There are smaller ones, there are bigger ones. It's up to your preference. There's no right or wrong. This one is full hollow, so it's quite concave. You have different angles on the grind. Which is best? Up to you. This is a good type of razor if you want to get started. This is full hollow. It's 5/8, which is a pretty good size. You can get a lot of them for not too much money. You can buy a new one, and if you do, go with Ralph Faust or Wacker or something like that. Germans make them very well and not too expensively. So you can do that, or you can get a used one, second-hand one. Most of the ones I have, almost all of them, are used, and some are really old and vintage. The most important thing is that when you start, you need to get it honed, sharpened by a professional. Professional being, it doesn't have to be his job, because hardly anyone has razor honing as a job. But most people who shave with straights know how to hone a razor. So the first one you try, get it honed by someone else, except if you're exceptionally good at sharpening things yourself. You can find one in a Facebook group or some other kind of media where nerds assemble to talk about their hobby, and you can buy razors from them. Often that's good advice. What determines if a razor is good is basically the quality of the steel and how it was manufactured, and the quality of the honing, of the sharpening. So first time trying it out, get it from someone who knows what they're doing. And I would say wherever you are in the world, there's at least a Facebook group where you ask a question and you will get help. If you buy a new one, it might say in the ad that it's shave ready. Some are, most are not. So go to someone who knows what they're doing. When you get your first one, don't try to meddle with it. Just take it as it is and shave with it. And when you start out, you need to have a keen edge so that you know what to strive for in your razor journey, your shaving journey. What you will absolutely need, in addition to the razor, is a strop. A strop is something you use after every time you shave and or before you shave. You can strop incorrectly. So go to YouTube, or if you have a friend who can teach you, let them teach you. But YouTube helps you out quite a bit. I'm not going to go into techniques of stropping. Others are better at teaching that. But there are different kinds of strops, and again, what you use is up to you and your preference. This is a hanging strop. It has a leather side, which is the most important thing. This one also has a textile part that you don't absolutely need, but it's quite nice. The textile I use after shaving to make sure I get all the dirt and water out of the razor edge. A tiny bit of dirt and a tiny bit of water will ruin your edge, or can ruin it. Also, don't keep your razors where you shower in the bathroom, because the tiniest bit of moist air will, you guessed it, ruin the edge, because it will rust, and corrosion is bad for sharpness. So this is a hanging strop. There are different sizes. You will need to spend a bit of money on this, but you can buy it secondhand. Both these are secondhand. This is quite wide. It's 3 inches wide. This is, I don't know, 2 inches wide. It's easier to work on a wide strop. So 3-inch strops are better, at least in the beginning, than these, before you know what you're doing. And the only advice I'll give is make sure it's taut. when you strop. Don't pull like crazy, but it needs to be taut. You don't want it looking like this, because then you'll ruin the edge, because you'll make it round rather than pointy. That's all I'll say about that. Another kind of strop is a paddle strop, equally good, and I like both. This so it doesn't flex. There are advantages with that. There are disadvantages as well. I use this less frequently, but it's good enough. This has suede on both sides, so no textile, works very well. Basically, that's what you need. But after a while, after a few shaves, no matter how well you take care of your razor, it will need a touch-up. So the first thing I got was this from a friend. This is, I think it's called balsa wood. So it's a very straight and very light piece of fiber board, basically. And I put a coating on this. This is a paste. This is chromium oxide. This has some abrasive characteristics to it. So you can strop it on this one, not every time, but every once in a while to touch up. What took me, well, almost 7 years was getting into honing myself. I'm not very good at it, and there are better people out there to tell you how to do it. So I'm not going to tell you how to do it and what to choose in terms of equipment. So basically I used to send mine away, my razors away, to a professional, which is always a good idea, and you pay them a little bit of money, but it's a small piece of money compared to buying stones, because that's another rabbit hole, and I'm not going to get into that because I don't know it all that well. But the next step after a pasted piece of balsa wood, the next step is to get a finishing stone. All kinds of finishing stones. I don't know which ones are good or which ones are bad. This one is the one I have, and it works fine for me. It's a Japanese natural stone. Millions of them. These are very expensive. You don't have to get that. Buy one from another person who hones, or let them advise you on what to get so that you get something that actually works. You're gonna need other stones, other little stones to make a slurry. And with that, if you don't ruin the edge by banging it somewhere so you chip it, and even a small chip will ruin the edge. If you take really good care of it, you can get by quite a long time on these. But if you want to get a razor that's not sharp or really dull or rusty and you polish it up, you will need stones with more abrasion. And if you get a really dull one, you're going to need something around the 1,000 to 4,000 grit category. I have a Japanese stone that I bought a long time ago. I've used it for kitchen knives, and now I'm playing around with them with straight razors. So this is one you soak for a few hours before you start. It's tedious because when you get inspiration to hone, you have to put it in water and wait for a few hours, and then sometimes the enthusiasm goes away, or you forget that you put it into the water, and then you can ruin it. So there are stones. These are synthetic stones, and that's all there is. I don't think there are natural stones with high grit, but there are ones that you don't have to soak. You just spray on them and you start going. But 1,000 grit works pretty well for me for really dull razors where you need to, really create a bevel by yourself. And then you need some kind of progression. up to your finishing stone. The person who taught me to hone starts out, what does he start at? 3,000 grits, I think. And you don't have to go there every time. But if you, again, as I said, start from scratch, you need a high or low grit stone. So 1 to 3, 4,000 grits or something. And then how many stones in the progression, you know, it's all up to you. But listen to the people who know what they're doing. My next step is 6,000. That works pretty well. Then I go to 10,000, and I do because I had those already. If I had purchased something new today, I might have gotten something else, maybe 1,000, 5,000, 8 to 10,000, somewhere around that, and then a finishing stone. That's a decent progression. You can get away with fewer stones, you just need to spend more time on honing because you have to get rid of the scratch marks on the previous stone before you move on in the progression. So that's what I do. It's not the only way to do it, but it's a good way to do it. You will need a flattening stone because even small alterations in the surface of the stone, and that happens when you put steel to it, you'll need to flatten them. There are cheap flattening stones, but I would suggest if you get into that, get a diamond plate, big one. That makes it easier to flatten them, and basically just underwater you use this to make it smooth again. This is also good for making a slurry on the synthetic stones, so that's what I do. What I would also get, it's not a cheap hobby, is something like this to hold the stones in place. I first put them on a table, and they move around, and you absolutely don't want them to move around. You want them to be stable. So something like this is pretty good. You can alter the distance between these things that lock the stone in, and that's good advice. What you also need is some kind of magnifier to really study the edge and see how you do. The minimum is a loop. So this is a cheap loop of 60, magnifies up to 60 times, I think. A lot of people, especially the really good ones, would say that's not enough. You need to go to higher magnification, and then you might want to get a microscope. I'm fine with this for now. When you've shaved and you're putting your razor away in a dry place, so make sure it's dry, leave it out in the air to dry properly, and then you can put it in a box. Don't put it in if there's any water on the razor, because then you lock it in and there's gonna be rust. What you can do, which I don't do as often as I should, is get some kind of oil to keep the water out. This is called razor oil. So I'm a sucker. I bought razor oil. I don't even know what's in it. Different kinds of oils you can use. Mineral oils is what you need. And you'll need a bit of electric tape to tape the spine of the edge. I do it when I move around on the 1,000 grit stone. Then after that, I don't use it anymore, but that's to protect the spine. That's what I have, that's what I use. And if I was getting into straight razor shaving today and I wanted to learn how to hone myself, so I would get something like this. Not exactly the same things, but something like that. But again, the first time you try to shave with a straight razor, make sure you have a sharp one. So get it from someone who knows what they're doing. That's it. That's my advice for you. And It's a lot of fun. Go for it. Play around and enjoy it. Thank you for watching. Maybe you want to subscribe. Maybe you want to like the video. If you do, please do. And I'll see you soon. Stay sharp.